Hi, hello Jeff.
Hi, how you doing, Manuel?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's
So
great to meet you. I know we've been trying to get this scheduled for a while.
yeah, for a while. So welcome to the podcast, the RevOps Pooper, and thank you so much for joining us today. We met each other on LinkedIn, I guess, right?
Yeah, we did. You approached me.
I did, and you have actually your own podcast. So maybe you could talk about it a bit, like before we're starting ours.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to talk about my own podcast. It's always great to join others who are also trying to build content for revenue operators. But the two podcasts are, the first one's called the RevOps Review. It's in partnership with Cognizant, and we bring on, qualified, amazing guests onto the podcast. We'll talk about anything and everything from marketing ops all the way to CS operations. And then the second podcast, just getting started, it's called the Revenue Rhythms, and that's with Daryl Alfonso and myself. And Daryl Alfonso is a longtime marketing operator, and I'm a sales operator. So we kind of have this marketing ops versus sales ops dialogue going on between the two of us.
All right. So you're a podcast lover, actually.
Yeah, well, honestly, Daryl and I, we talk all the time to each other every week to, share best practices and learn from one another. So we decided just to start recording the conversations.
Yeah, that's the easy way to make podcasts, actually, like the more natural way. Let's say.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. So today we're going to talk about RevOps, of course, but more about how to convince like a company to invest in a RevOps department, or at least, let's say, one RevOps person. I think you're used to work with companies about, I don't know, are you, like, first question, do you do you work with company who has like RevOps department, like many people, or more one or two person game?
I've worked in a variety of different environments. So let's just go back a little bit. So before revenue operations, I was in FP&A in finance, and I was partnering with the sales organization, the marketing organization, as a sales FP&A partner. Over the course of that time, I partnered with the sales operations team and really enjoyed what they did. And then before finance, many years before that, I was in sales. So I had an opportunity to, understand what the sellers are going through and what type of support they needed from an operational standpoint. Now, when I left Google, I joined a series of kind of like smaller private companies. The first company I joined, I was leading their go-to-market analytics department. And so building all of their dashboards, all the data warehousing, that was a small team. In fact, it was just me and maybe a couple of contractors.
Okay.
Then I moved to a promising startup, sub 10 million. By the time I left there, we'd grown to 70 million ARR in 3 years. So really fast growing opportunity, and was not a growth at all cost environment. In fact, it was a very financially prudent organization. But there I joined as a director of sales operations, where I was a team of one. And then I was given the opportunity to lead the SDR team for about a year, and then brought on a couple of team members. So generally when folks bring me in, they'll bring me in sub 10 million. I'll come in as a team of one for a few months, scale up the team once we start to have some great momentum. And I'll generally bring in a marketing ops, sales ops leader. And then if I'm lucky, I'll also have sales enablement reporting to me, as well as CS operations.
All right. Whoa, so impressive. So you're like more from sales ops stuff than like going like step by step through like the marketing ops and the RevOps, building your own team, I guess. Then
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. Okay. And just for you, what's the definition of RevOps? Because we have the Wikipedia saying that RevOps is revenue operation. That is. But what's your definition about of RevOps?
Yeah, I've been saying this for a couple of years, but revenue operations is the discipline of bringing strategy and execution to align with one another. And the way we do that is through by making it peas in a pod. PEAS is the acronym. So process, enablement, advisory, and systems. These are 4 key pillars. Imagine them as swim lanes. And then in those swim lanes are a variety of activities that revenue operators can take on to better make the organization more effective. Now, some organizations might define it glibly as maybe sales operations as in the skies, or maybe it's like a transformer and you add all these pieces together. It's marketing ops plus sales ops plus CS ops. But I feel like we should aspire to something higher in a paradigm of aligning both go-to-market strategy and execution together.
Okay, so yeah, just take more like visibility about like just not more the sales. And okay, so do you think RevOps, like, you know, if we're go back in the times, where was born from the like the marketing and sales alignment? And because, you know, most of company 10 years ago, they were talking about how to align your sales and your marketing teams, and then it was like the big topic, like the huge game. So is it from there and it changed like time by time, or for you, where is from RevOps?
So I think the origination of RevOps today is just a continuation and evolution of the go-to-market funnel over the decades. If you go back in time, you can see descriptions of the marketing funnel as AIDA, AIDA, awareness, interest, desire, action. And that was written, you know, well before my time, maybe even before my parents' time. So when you think about the evolution of the funnel, we've been at this for decades. But the current incarnation of revenue operations, in my mind, has come from a couple of trends converging at the same time. The first trend is the escalation and the evolution of the Chief Revenue Operation Officer role. So the CRO, having the revenue title now in their role, basically gives the natural license to finding a first in command or a right hand that is an extension of that CRO. So revenue operations, the revenue carries over to roles that already existed the last 10 years, which is marketing ops and sales operations. The second massive trend has been happening for quite a while now, ever since Salesforce. So when sales reps have been moving from saying, stop spending on CapEx with on-premise solutions to the cloud, you know, start moving from on-prem to the cloud, from CapEx to OpEx, you know, it really changed the game for how you can configure these tools. Before, you would have to bring in a systems integrator like Accenture or Deloitte, and I used to work at Accenture, or you'd have to bring in your own IT department. But what that's done is those tools have accomplished the task of allowing folks inside of the business department, sales and marketing, to configure these tools themselves. So it's given more autonomy back to the business unit and decreased the need for a centralized IT organization. And so now you're going to have one, not only the, you know, the sales planning, the marketing planning, the analytics and ad hoc capabilities, but now you're also taking on the technical responsibilities of configuring these tools. And so now you're seeing a lot of teams probably over-index on the tools, but originally, you know, before these on-prem solutions moved to the cloud, sales ops was really called sales planning or sales analysis, same with marketing analysis. We were doing a lot more strategic work before. Now we've kind of fallen into this trap of doing a lot of technology work.
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, we're talking about like sales ops, marketing ops, like the analysis team, etc. But I feel like you need to have the technical way to see the RevOps as well. So we were talking more about like, you know, the software parts, the technical parts, and how like sales, market, all the customer facing department could you know, embrace the technology, because sometimes it's quite, you know, hard. They have like skills like sales, for example, sales ops, they have a lot of skills in sales, of course, but not like the technical skills. So how could we work with that, and together maybe with IT, maybe with, I don't know, like another department? So how do you see that, this alignment, let's say that?
Well, so tools are meant to be functional, and they should follow, you know, what your process is meant to accomplish, right? So at the end of the day, you can still sell without having a CRM. You can sell without having all these tools. It just makes it a lot harder. So the time for you to accomplish your task in your go-to-market motion is just elongated. So these tools help you cut down that time. So for example, when you're prospecting, when you're looking for new solutions or not new solutions, you're researching about an account, you're researching about a prospect, you could do it the old-fashioned way. It take a lot of time. But with LinkedIn Place now, you're able to learn a whole lot about the person and bake those learnings into your prospecting. The second part is when you're writing an email or you're creating a call, you can actually use a lot of AI tools now to generate that content right then and there. Now you obviously want to edit it and view it before QA it before you send it out. But the amount of time that it's taken to do certain tasks has now shrunk considerably. The next thing is taking your notes. So after you have a phone call, we're able to record these calls, and AI is able to summarize it and able to take the best parts and fill out all the fields you need in your CRM. So at the end of the day, sales reps, marketers, customer success managers, they don't need to be technical. They just need to be helpful, right? They need to be helpful to the customer. And we in operations are trying to find more and more tools to reduce the level of overhead for those folks to input their data inside of our CRMs.
Yeah, I think what you mean, but they're actually not owner of the tool. You know what I mean? They're like more using it. Most of the time they're using it because the company, the IT department said, okay, you need a CRM, you need an AI to do that, etc. But they're not quite owner of what they're doing in the tool, of their processes. Actually, more like depends which kind of company. So what I'm asking is more about like how you could align or just agree. You're a sales or marketing team, okay, you're ops team, so you need to streamline your process into this tool, like this software, this platform, but they're not like owner of the platform. Or are they? Like my question of should they be owner of the platform, or is the platform shaped by another department? So I don't know if I'm pretty clear. Sorry.
I'll try to answer. So feel free to interrupt me if I'm not answering your question specifically. But at the end of the day, these tools are an interface. So if you think about your platform, your marketing automation platform, to your CRM, to your customer success platform, at the end of the day, it's not just an internal tool, but it's a product for your marketers, your sales reps to input the information they need. Now, if the product to them feels stale, just like when you log into any other platform or any social media network, you realize, well, this is a little antiquated. I can't quite accomplish what I want. Well, product feedback, product iteration is always something that's highly suggested to a product manager, as well as an engineer. Same thing to a revenue operations team. If your platform isn't operating the way you'd like it to, then you should have an open dialogue around, well, let's take suggestions, put that on the roadmap, and then from there we can start gathering requirements, designing what 2.0 or 3.0 might look like, configuring it or building it, and then having a group of testers accept those changes, QA it, deploy it in a live environment, and change manage the team to be able to use the new iteration of your platform.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
It's classic project management, classic product management.
Yeah. Once again, I think depends, like, of course, like it should be like that, but depends the team, the company, etc. Because in some company, the one I'm working with, like some of them are sometimes, the sales ops is the platform owner. So they're doing whatever they want in the platform. They really don't need user access or don't need to ask permission to change the process. And some others are pretty different. So of course they need to work as like on a project management stuff, but I feel like it creates more frictions, and of course it's a bit longer to set up the processes, like the new processes, and to test and Q&A, etc. So just thinking about it, maybe it depends on the size of the company, but also the mindset of the company, not only the size, because some big companies could just say, okay, marketing ops, okay, go for it. You're owner of your product, you're owner of your processes, so go for it. You test, you do everything you want, and just prove me that you're right. And some other company are more like, no, we have an IT team, so they're owner of the platform, and you just ask for implementing your new process and testing, etc. Well, the main topic of this podcast is actually how to convince the management to invest in RevOps. Do you have some advices for that?
So the way I like to think about it is, I think it's always hard pressed to make a business case for revenue operations without communicating the value of revenue operations. And I find that a lot of revenue operators have a difficult time in explaining the value of it. And so one of the things that I like to use as a device is an analogy. And then the second is to transform those analogies into a real world application.
Okay.
And then depends on what type of revenue operations. So some teams already have quote unquote elements of RevOps in their work environment today, but it's not quite leveled or skilled up to what they hope it will be in the long run. So let's go over an example.
Yeah.
Without revenue operations, the analogy could be something like flying blind as an airline pilot. You can definitely fly in the air, but you may not be heading in the right direction, and you may not be able to land correctly when the time is right. Well, those are pretty scary things for anyone who's in the back of that plane.
Yeah.
So with a navigator and with someone who's able to do the quality control checks and someone who's able to communicate back and forth across different parties to make sure that plane lands safely, well, I see a lot of those same analogies applying to a revenue operations professional. We not only run the rhythm of the business, we also run the rhythm of the plane. We are able to bring the gauges, the fuel gauges, and identify when situations arise, what levers to pull, what dials to twist. And the next one would be to communicate back and forth. So you have to communicate with the radio tower. You have to communicate with the folks who are inside of the plane, and your co-pilot. And so coordinating all those pieces together, well, I find a lot of revenue operations professionals do that.
Yeah.
Now, when you treat the revenue operations person as a mechanic, that person is making sure that the plane is ready to go while it's on the ground. Then it takes off, and you don't have someone doing all the other responsibilities that I talked about. Well, then you're just waiting for the mechanic when you land. And probably you might land and the plane might be on fire by then. And so I like to use that analogy.
Okay.
That it's not very convincing to a CFO or a CRO.
Yeah.
But you want to translate, those analogies into real world value. So, for example, the quality, have you been able to get the value of a low variance forecast in quite some time? If you haven't, well, maybe you're missing a strategic RevOps element in your organization. Yes, you're able to roll out Salesforce changes because you have the tactical component of your org, but you don't have the strategic view. When you're going through annual planning, maybe annual planning is taking way too long. You started in November and you still haven't released comp plans, you still haven't released territories or anything tactical by March. Well, guess what? Your sales reps have been operating for first 3 months without a game plan. Or if you're a marketer and every time you try to run a campaign, the campaigns take way too long. Well, it's because you don't have procedures around your campaign operations. And so when you think about breaking down the value of revenue operations, to me, it's about making sure things run on time, running under budget, and then everyone knows their assignment and where to be. So we want to up level from the technical piece to kind of the operating component of the organization to strategic element. The strategic element is going to be, being a part of plan. So segmentation, ICP, personas. Some folks might say that belongs to product marketing. Sure. But we certainly play a part in shaping it and then taking some of that work and then making sure that it makes sense from a territory and account assignment point of view as well.
Yeah. So you should use like different analogies, different kind of, just words with depending on the team, on the team leader you have in front of you, which is sometimes quite hard because, the RevOps should have the whole vision about what's happening in each department, but also the links between what's happening there, like the strategic way, the operational way, the tactics. So you need to adapt your speech to each, what I understand from what you just said, to all the teams you're talking with, which is like a challenge, I guess, because you're not supposed to know like everything about the, I mean, you are supposed to know, but everything about the management visions or the marketing teams, etc. So you need to be kind all over the place, right? Which is sometimes quite exhausting for RevOps people, like operational stuff to do, but you also have like like the strategical speech to have with each teams. So yeah, okay, good. Interesting. So I feel like you need to adapt your speech. You need to talk the same language actually than each teams, each person actually as well, because you can have, as you say, like in the management, the CRO, the CFO, the CEO, who are thinking to different objectives, different goals sometimes. So okay, and maybe to finish on that, so what is your like the main advice if you should talk to your CEO to get your CEO on board? Like, I get the pilots, like the plane analogy, but yeah, what's your main advice to talk about? Okay, we really need to invest in a RevOps person, either if it's an internal person or external partner or whatever. Yeah.
Well, my advice is to make sure that you build a revenue operations team that makes sense for the stage of the company.
Yeah.
And so in the earliest stage of a company, you're not going to need a vice president. You're not going to need a head of revenue operations. You probably just need some part-time technical resources.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you're getting to a couple of $1 million in sales, you're still sub 10 million. You're probably looking at really more of a systems admin, right? There's nothing to there's not that much to forecast. There's not that much to refine and process. There's still a lot of go-to-market fit that hasn't, you're still building it. You haven't really scaled it.
Yeah.
Then once you get to 10 million, yeah, you've probably proven that you have an ICP. Maybe you haven't refined it quite well. You're still selling to a lot of different audiences. But that's when I think you start to bring in a leader, maybe not a VP again, but someone who's like a director in titles, someone who can still do the technical work and roll up their sleeves if they need to, but someone who will also make sure that they protect their time and reserve a portion of it to then providing the strategic advice that I was mentioning. And then once you get beyond that, you're starting to really, optimize, scale and then optimize. And that's where you really need to start thinking about, getting some specialists on hand. So marketing ops, sales ops, if you're lucky, CS operations. And that's going to build a lot of, increase the capacity of the organization. You're going to be able to not only single click into some answers, but you're going to be able to double click into some answers. You're also going to be able to streamline some of the manual operations the team has been painfully operating with for quite some time to something that's automated. And then you're also going to be able to bring the insights that are going to allow you to find that second product, that second market, that second channel, the second motion that you want to run. And the only way to be able to do that is by increasing the capacity of the RevOps org. So when you're making an investment case to the CEO, it's about finding fit for purpose. What does the organization need at this stage, according to the history of other well-run organizations? And here's how we're doing it today. But if we don't have the resources, I'm going to request an accretive investment in the form of either full-time staff, bringing in an agency, or solving it by committee by existing team members who may not necessarily be in RevOps.
Yeah. Okay. So start small as the company needs, and get bigger with each steps, like each growth steps of the company. That's good advice. I'm gonna talk to my CEO then. I think we're done. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate you asking the questions that you asked. I think the investment question is always something hard. I think a lot of people are probably pounding their head against the wall saying, why can't I get head count? I've been in that boat before, and I know how frustrating it can be.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think RevOps is also about psychology. You need to be kind of psychological people to talk to other people depending their needs and how they see stuff. So I think it's a big part of RevOps. For me, actually, when I talked with my customers, with my clients, I can feel that sometimes you were talking about frustrations. So sometimes you need to deal with it, and as you say, just start small and just get bigger. But you need to prove like the value of what you're doing. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna think about it tonight. So thank you so much. See you maybe to your podcast one day.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Would love to have you on.
Cool. See you then. Bye bye. See
All
you
right. Thank
all,
you.
and I'll tell you see you to the next podcast. Bye bye.